I don't really know how, I don't know how to begin this video. And I'm doing it as a stream on purpose because if I give myself the luxury of just doing a video, um, there's an inherent problem with that, um, which is that I have to get the guts to. It's hard to tell a story that hopefully will help other people. It's hard to say something that's actually serious. It's hard to actually put yourself out there. It's harder than it looks because maybe me being on here on this platform for a few years now makes it look easier, or you see other YouTubers making it look easier to be able to do that. But I'll tell you what, there are more vloggers who have gone down the tubes, or more people that did things like gaming and then tried to vlog and then all of a sudden said, I can't do both. Um, and they stop it. Almost every big gamer out there actually has tried to do a vlog and said it's like wrecking their life. Um, and so it's always been a toss up whether I do something like that or not. But this is the idea of most people that are accustomed to my channel actually know that there's a little secret about my channel. As much as there's fun and everything behind it, and I try to entertain, if you actually dig into my channel, you'll find stories, and you'll find actual insight into things, and um, you'll find that it's not necessarily what it looks like. And so it's one of those that it's one of those that I so like what I said from the title of this video. People that have actually noticed really well on the channel have actually noticed that my left hand seems to be undergoing changes all the time. People have actually asked for some time now, every now and then, why why the ring is different or not there, or why this. People have been asking even before I started making it known that something was going on. They noticed that something was happening. Yeah, divorce isn't a fun thing. I'm going to be making some videos on it. I'm going to be making some videos only because I'm trying something different. I'm trying to accomplish something that usually it doesn't get accomplished like this. That's the goal, at least. Now, whether I reach that is a different thing. Even with that being the goal, there's just an inherent problem of I always kept telling myself that maybe I'm just gonna keep telling it's. I kept wanting to say a story like as if I was in the middle of it. I made a script. I wanted to make a kind of like a be able to tell people what's going on, almost like to give people hope through a series of videos of like if this is something going on, whether you're the actual one having to get separated from a spouse or like you're the child of the like seeing what the parents are going through, that there would be something that you could see that maybe is different from what you're used to seeing. And that's kind of the way I went about this whole thing, that it was I wanted something different, especially because I have a son. So I wanted something completely different than the normal. I wanted him to be able to feel like his family wasn't being ruined or breaking up or whatnot. But it's hard to literally break up a family and have a child not feel like a family isn't broken. That's kind of why I wanted to say a story while like going through it. Like I wanted to start making scripts and actually record this while it's happening because I didn't want people to see the end result just as if everything is okay, because it's not. It's not okay. Um, I wanted people to see that even if it's not okay, it's worth trying to struggle through and get through. Um, it's worth the idea that it's worth the aspiration and the goal. I even considered putting music behind all of this as something somber, and it doesn't make sense to do any of that because it's just going to detract from the idea that what you see, what normally happens in society, is not geared toward the idea that the child should come first, and that's wrong. I I posted something that I've got something to say about that too. I posted something on the community tab that I really kind of went on a rant of saying, like, I'm thinking about Louis C.K. talking about divorce and whatnot and making kind of light of it. At the same time, like, it's hard to make light of like the fallout of what happens, um, and it's hard to like it's even hard to make eye contact with the camera because I keep looking at it and I feel like I'm actually looking at people because that's how I've always kind of tried to imagine when I'm doing any kind of serious talk or whatnot. I've always tried to imagine as if I'm speaking to one person, and sometimes I've had a person in mind, and as if I'm trying to just talk to them, like I'm just trying to get all of the thoughts out of my head, and it's to this one person, and so maybe it feels more personable sometimes on my channel, um, because um, I am trying to feel as if I'm not just connecting with a general mass of people. I don't want to feel like it's just a general populace of mindless sheep. I want to feel like it's like when I'm talking and I'm speaking, I'm not just speaking to whoever. I'm speaking to you. If this is what you need to hear, this is the exact reason why I'm doing it. I'm speaking to you. My gaming channel is almost like a facade for a more serious channel that was going to be a more serious channel. It would have had games in it, but it was supposed to be directed around the ideas of kind of like helping my brother get back on his feet, letting him have an outlet, a place to debate, giving my and giving outlets for Kevin and myself and Nathan. I hear police sirens going off. I don't know where. Um, to be able to do the things that we want to do. Um, but we always had the idea that it would always come back towards either debates or like serious topics or whatnot. Like gaming could be a part of it that draws you to it, but then it could always come back around. Um, that's kind of why I think a lot of people might gravitate towards when I do playthroughs like The Last of Us or Life is Strange, because I do treat it the way that I intended to treat it from the beginning. This whole channel from the beginning. Um, uh, I intended to treat it as if it were a place where, maybe you get to see the game, but you get to see a breakdown of real human characters and then get to relate to the idea that you're not alone struggling. There's a writer who thought of it. There's a team that thought to act it out. There are people who put it into a game and then they made it into a story. And they put it all together, and sometimes breaking it apart and breaking it down shows real serious topics that all of a sudden it's a thing that's hard to talk about without. Okay, so I had to mute myself for a second, and I'm sorry I didn't unmute myself. Um, the my son had to call down for me, and I muted myself only because okay, that little boy makes me smile, and I guess it's good to get out of what I was getting into because what I was pretty much just trying to, as a summation, um, a lot of the things that I do are masked inside of the game. If you go and actually look at some of the more times I've been serious, or even games that people will just show up like for like Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne or whatnot, I won't shy away from serious topics. Um, I won't shy away from it because sometimes it's important. And there's sometimes that I know that there are people that need to hear it. Putting myself on the line is worth it if it helps somebody else because I can take the backlash most of the time. I can take it. I've learned how to sit here and realize that the internet is the internet. No matter how good of a cause or reason that I have to say anything is, I the internet will be the internet. Um, but if it helps anybody, somebody sent me a message saying that when I talked during Life is Strange, because Kate, you have to do things to try to save her, and it reminded me of Katie, and I felt like I rambled, and I did. I went on a tangent for a while, just talking about almost like the effects and what happens, and it's a serious topic, and it's hard. Sometimes it's just like in the game, you completely can miss it, and to just do something to reach out anywhere, and if the first place you don't reach out, keep reaching out again. And I felt like it was one of those things that pretty much people are going to see the gameplay and then they're going to see me break down and everyone's going to click off, but my analytics show me a different story, that people actually go and replay that talk that I take for as me rambling and ranting. But then I get messages like people saying they felt like they were holding on by a string, and me talking like that was like I threw them a steel cable instead to hold on to. That's the reason why I ever put myself out there on the line, because no matter how much it can take out of me to do that, if it helps one person at all, then it's worth it, because all of a sudden what I've gone through or what I'm going through makes somebody maybe feel like they're not alone. And sometimes the things I've gone through, if I put it the right way, it can make it look like and show people that there can be a different way to do it. In this whole mess, I've had to fight a lot of people about the way I've gone through all of this. I've 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 had to fight with people about why I would make the choices I would make, why I would try to go through this process, why I would tell even family that they need to get on the page I'm on, because of course, I shouldn't say of course, I take my family for granted sometimes that they've got my back when there are plenty of people who have families that they don't. That's not how it works. But at the same time, my first inclination, of course, is not necessarily always kindness, but the one that I try to default to is still going to be kindness, um, because there can be a different way. I can fail still. I have failed at a few objectives I've had about separation, divorce, what happens with my son, what happens in the end, how I deal with it, how I respond to it, how I'm trying to compose myself about it. I've already failed in some of the ways I've tried to go about it and some of the objectives I've had. And at the same time, it doesn't mean that I have to stop. Um, just because I've fallen short does not mean that you don't. Falling short of a goal doesn't mean you don't strive for it. Sometimes that means you just have to accept that it can't be picture perfect. And this is a cut and dry case of there's no such thing as a fairy tale ending. There's no such thing as this being just okay. It's not. It's not okay. You don't get married expecting to get divorced. I named the title of the stream like that because, yeah, people did recognize that rings were different. And some of the people that actually paid attention enough noticed one ring in particular, the one that is the thumbnail for this whole thing. This one. People that paid close enough attention noticed that this ring is very unique looking. Usually a wedding band doesn't have anything but for guys but being plain. There's 3 diamonds in it and it's split down the middle, and it used to be brushed on alternating sides. People noticed that it switched fingers and that another ring came into the picture instead. And that's because, yeah, everything was dissolving. What I was honestly wanting to do is see if that I had to resize the ring, because it does still have a meaning to me. I wanted to be able to keep wearing it. And I didn't want to wear it on the finger that a ring doesn't belong on anymore, because I'm not married. I wanted to be able to wear it on this finger. And it's almost like there's a part of me that needs to carry along the past with me to remember how to not repeat my mistakes. There's kind of like when people find out that the mohawk isn't mine. Anyone that actually goes back in my channel long enough will see the exact moment that I said that my brother had passed away. And the next video, there's a blue strip of hair on my head. I look in the mirror and I still get surprised by the fact that I have it, because I don't think of it as mine. I think of it as Nathan's. And I used to shave off my chin hair all the time. I'd miss my chin, and I'd be like, I need to get at my chin again, and I'd shave it off, and then I'd be like, well, that's what my chin looks like, and then it'd start growing back out, and I was like, you know what, chin hair could be cool, and then I put the chin hair on, and then I'd be like, you know what, I miss my chin, and I'd shave it back off. And then my son got a hold of this, and it was comforting for him when he was young, and I didn't want it to go away anymore. And then I even asked his permission, like, how short can I cut this? The ring still hasn't lost all of its meaning. There's gotta be videos trying to explain what happened. And the reason I'm doing it the way I'm doing is because I actually even had to force lawyers into a part of it. One part is simply going to be about my son, and about the fact that in all the division of everything, he was so de-emphasized about how he should be taken care of, what should be done for him. I can't go on that tangent now. Every single thing that had to do with money has a requirement for a notary. The one page that says what happens to my son is the only page that you don't have to prove that you're the parent, that you signed it. For all I know, a lawyer could switch it out at the last second, act like it's my signature, and all of a sudden all of the things that I'm building go away, because it's the one thing that apparently doesn't matter so much. It doesn't matter enough because my son is considered an asset and a liability. But he's not monetarily, for that sheet, a pure asset or liability. It's just about how he's going to be taken care of. And when the money's not involved, there was no need for a notary anymore. For only that section, only that page. That's the first video. I refused to let that stay. I refused to let that be how it was going to be. Uh, I forced them to notarize it. Um, that it was my signature on there. That it was me. That I. It made me sick. Um, it made me sick to think that because that one sheet only talks about how he'll be taken care of, but doesn't talk about the dollar signs to it. It didn't need a notary signature. But through the whole thing, it's the most important because there is no dollar sign that says what he's worth to me. So yeah, I pissed her off. I pissed the lawyer off a bit. I forced them to add a notary line. I could have pissed the judge off too, by him seeing that the standard document was screwed with. I didn't fucking care. I didn't care. If they really wanted to, I would have argued it up and down. And I still have an argument to make about it. I'm not perfect. No one is. A lot of people said when I made any kind of post that they were proud of me for admitting that I made mistakes. What's disheartening is the private messages of people assuming what that mistake was. It feels awful for people to assume that because I'm male. And literally now I can't not face that. Because I even at the park in a normal conversation of another parent being near where I'm just sitting here talking about that a ring's having to come off soon. They want she has the gall to say, "Oh, I want to hear this story because with kids, it's always the man." And then she goes on to infer that I had stepped outside the bounds of the marriage and sorry, you're wrong. I corrected her very fast. I'm a male. I'm also his primary caregiver. I'm also the one he's seen the most in his whole entire life. I made a general estimate that for every hour that I've seen him, you got to add. For every hour anyone else has seen him, multiply that by 3, and that's how much I've. No one can touch how much time I've spent with him as compared to anyone else on this planet. And I just made that as a general joke. Like, you can divide the amount of time I've spent with him by 3, and maybe you'll start hitting the next person, which would be Mel. I mean, it would be his mom. No, I actually went back and did math. 5 times. The next closest to who can touch the amount of time I've spent with my son would be 5 times the amount. I'm not just a dad. I am his dad. I take care of him. I'm the primary caregiver. I'm the one that, whether it's the roles that everyone wanted to be in or not, and it's the role I did want to be in once I realized I was in it. It was the role that was more or less meant for me. I'm still trying to do things differently and differently enough that even with that said, that has to change. Because I'm trying to stop anything that looks like fighting. I'm trying to stop anything that looks like instability. I'm trying to put the brakes on anything that can affect him. He's going to get hurt by this. It's not whether I can protect him. I can't. I can't protect him from this. In the same comment I made that I said that it was a selfish desire. When 2 people have a child, that it's selfish. And somebody retorted and made a comment back that it was an interesting perspective from them to hear me say that because they've heard people who don't have children are called selfish. No. To want to have the gall to to create life on purpose and from yourself, knowing that they then have to live a life separate from you, is completely selfish. There might be the best and most noble reasons, but it is a selfish thing. However, if it's truly what you want, that's the last selfish thing you get to do. It's the last selfish, putting yourself first thing you get to do if that's what you want to do as a parent. As far as I'm concerned, from then on out, that was your last chance to be selfish. And if you want to keep doing what you're doing, that's fine. Maybe it's not time for you to have a child. Go ahead, keep living your life. You don't have to. It's not wrong to want to be your own person, grow up and explore and learn things, travel the world, find a job, find a person, spend time. It's not wrong to want those things. But when you make that one selfish choice of making a life that didn't choose to be made, you just gave up, from then on out, the ability to be selfish again. That was the last one you got. From then on out, anytime you're being selfish, you are putting your child second. It's time that you have to take a back seat. You can't do both. You can't do both. So yeah, having a child is a selfish thing. Especially planned like that. It's very selfish. But it's the last selfish thing you get to do. And then you need to step up. You have to be a parent. You have to be a dad. And in this case, being a dad, I realized I had to protect him in the only ways I knew how. I couldn't truly protect him. I couldn't give him a whole family again. It was going to be broken. There was nothing I could do. Trust me, I tried. I tried. When I realized that any glimmer of hope of trying was going to be lost, I wanted it to be different. If I couldn't protect him from having a broken family, I could protect him from the worst case scenarios. And then going through the worst case scenarios, I started deciding what would be best. What would be the best thing for him to see? And that's where some of these videos are going to start coming in. Because the best things for him to see are not the normal. It's not being cordial with the other person. I told her if there is a possible way to do so, that my goal isn't just to be a friend of hers, it's to be a best friend. That's how we started off. If he could see that, if he could see that adults could put aside everything and not just treat it like it's a business transaction. If he could see that we could still sit down and have a family dinner and it actually be family. Not what everyone believes and gets so used to in divorce of the new family that has to be made. But if people can see that his father and mother can still sit on each side of him and make him feel like he has a whole family, and then that we can actually still smile while doing so, not gritting teeth the whole time. We didn't get to this point because it was all sunshine and flowers. There was no rainbow and anything. It didn't come to this because everything went right. So that goal is a hard one to even strive for. The idea to be best friend to a person that does not want to be married to you anymore. Um, but it's worth trying. It's worth it. At least to try. At least one day I can look at my son and I can tell him I tried. I tried to keep the family whole. Even if we end up going at each other's throats all the time, I can tell him that I tried. That I tried to I tried to be a friend. I tried to give him everything that he deserves. What he deserves is a whole family, and I can't give him that. So I guess as a runner-up, he can see that I tried. The real goal is that he's got to be better than me. He needs to see that the way the world works is broken. It's wrong. The way divorce and everything's handled is wrong. The way parents end up putting kids second is wrong. He needs to see that even if I fail at doing, he needs to see that there was at least an example set that you can try. I can fail. That's fine. As long as I set a good enough example that my son can be better than me. That wherever I failed, he did not. I want him to see that there's a battle, that the way it goes is not the way it should be. And just because it's the normal does not mean it's right. I want him to grow up knowing that he was put first. Even when shit hit the fan and everything went wrong, it didn't matter. He was first. So maybe one day, if he goes through the same thing, maybe if I fail, that I can't accomplish that I can't give him everything he deserves. If he has to go through the same thing, maybe he remembers. Maybe he remembers the example I tried to set. And he does what I couldn't. He'll tell you, I have 3 jobs as a dad. I have 3, and it's pretty simple. I've drilled him into him because he needs to know what my job is. He needs to know when I fail also. Because if I ever fail at any of those 3, he needs to know that it wasn't right. That it was me. I screwed up. I screwed up in my job as being a dad. So, he needs to know. He needs to know. He knows there are 3 things. That I am to protect him. That I am to provide for him. And I am to raise him to be better than me one day. He'll tell you himself. The first time I ever told him, he thought it meant strength, like to be stronger or taller or bigger. And I said, no. It means that one day, for every decision that I messed up with, and every time that Daddy sat here and messed up and made a mistake, that you can come to the same crossroad. And I even said that my little son is smart. Come to the same thing and choose the better path, make the better choice. My job isn't to be perfect. My job is to show him there is a better way. And if he needs to see that I'm human and that I'm fault, that I'm broken, or that I'm not perfect, if he needs to see that his dad has cracks, has places that he's not been able to fix, that he's broken, too broken to make the right choices, if that's what he needs to see, to know and to avoid it, it's what he'll see. I won't hide from my son, because hiding from him will do him the greatest disservice. I will tell him every mistake I've ever made. One day he will know everything I've ever done wrong that I can ever think of. He'll know it in time, not as a 5-year-old. Certain things he'll know now, and then at 6, 7. As he gets older and older, he'll know more and more, until he has a full picture of what really happened, so that his life makes sense to him, so that when he looks back at every single milestone and sees what was going on around him, he knows what really was going on around him. If he can know what's really happening and at least have an example whether I succeed or not, he has a chance to be better than me and not do the same, not make the mistakes. That's when I've succeeded as a parent. That's when I did it. Not when he's grown. Not when he has kids of his own. Not any of these other things. When I can look at him and see that I made a better person than I am. That I raised a child that isn't broken in the places that I can't be fixed anymore. One that can make the choices I couldn't make. When I see that he can do the things I wish I could do and I couldn't. When I see that he is better than me. At least by a little bit. That's when I have the right to say that I was a good dad. I have to earn that right. And it starts now. It starts with the things that hurt and suck the most for me. Because again, making him was the last selfish thing I got to do. It doesn't matter how much it hurts me. It doesn't. If it's the right thing to do, it's my job to suck it up. It's my job to figure it the fuck on out. It's my job to negotiate and to tread those waters. It's my job. It's my job to figure it out. I protect. I provide. I make him better than me. So that was the last selfish thing I got to do, making him. Thank you guys for the support that you always give. I'm going to probably stream here soon. I'm going to stream and I'm going to try to be normal. I'm trying to not harp on things, and I'm going to make serious videos, but some people need to see that there is a better way. Or at least you should try for it. Because if you fail, at least you set the example that should be shown. Failure is always an option. Of course, I failed at my marriage. I'm having to figure out and negotiate this because I failed at my marriage. Failure is always an option. And strength isn't defined by going through life without having adversity. No. The real measure of strength is not being able to always stand tall and get it right, to be always able to carry that weight. Sometimes the measure of strength is getting crushed by it, is getting completely decimated. Sometimes the measure is buckling under the pressure, giving in, not being able to stand anymore, to completely get steamrolled by something that you can't control, and then still get back up and decide that just because you failed doesn't mean you weren't doing the right thing. You don't get to take the easy way out anymore. At least when there's a child involved, you don't get to do it anymore. I have to wear this ring. Same reason I had to make a mohawk. Because there were too many times I forgot my brother was in pain in a basement. Now I can't look in the mirror without remembering. Remembering the times that I failed to be there for him. You could see it as punishment. I also see it as I won't get another shot with him. But I don't want to let it happen again, where I can just live my life and let time pass. And something like that happens. The chin hair doesn't get to go away. I look in the mirror and I remember that I have to be a good dad. I have to get back up. I can be depressed as I want to be, and I have a reminder that I have to. The ring has to stay. It has a second reason for staying. But one of them is that for now, it has to be a reminder that, yeah, I failed. I have a failed marriage. And now there's no marriage to speak of. But it wasn't all bad. And there were good things that came out of it. And I need to remember what I'm actually teaching Rowan. And so I'm going to have to look at my hand and remember that I failed, but I need to make a child that can be better than me. Anyway, that's all I really have to say for now. The ring still means something. It's still always going to be etched into me one way or another, whether I wear it or not. This ring was supposed to be something that stayed on my hand, on my ring finger, until I was buried with it. Now at least it's proof that my son was made in love and not out of anything else. At least it's proof of that now. So, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll give it to him, so that he has a reminder that he was never a side note or a mistake. He was never put second. That he was never something I had to deal with. He wasn't. Maybe my ring to him one day will mean that he was first. And I did give up my right to be number one. I did do it. I made mistakes, but they're not the ones that I get accused of in the private messages. If anything, you guys are going to learn that my mistakes come out of the idea of what happens when you try to do right, something good, something maybe even admirable, when you try to fix things and you do it all the wrong ways. It was not about stepping out of lines. And it takes two to tango. She made mistakes too. But mine, as noble as it might sound, I beseech every person that will ever listen to any of those videos, you cannot demonize her when you hear what she's done. You have to hear that there are two sides to this story, and you're getting to hear me. I'm going to do my best and my damnedest to show you that I am as human as it gets, and I made mistakes. Doesn't matter how noble the idea was or the cause. It doesn't matter if the end. My mistakes were that I was pretending the ends justified the means, and I was pretending as if I needed to prove myself somehow. To prove it by showing results and hiding how I got the results there in the first place. As if I needed to prove to her or to fix others. So, thanks guys for watching. Hopefully this hasn't been too bad for you guys to watch. Hopefully the videos I make will be okay. And hopefully somebody out there will learn that maybe the way I'm doing it isn't perfect, but at least what I'm trying to accomplish is at least a fucking step above what the normal is, because the normal is broken. I guarantee you the normal model that you see is the broken model of putting the child second while parents try to hash out their own lives separate from everything else. That model should be thrown out. I might fail and I might fall into the same category, but I'm going to give Rowan a damn good example of how to try to do it. And while failure is an option for me, again, my job is to make a child that can succeed where I fail. That's all. I just want him to succeed where I failed. Yeah, I made a selfish choice. I made a human being, a life that now has to live its own life. One that maybe grows up to be the happiest person alive, or maybe deals with some of the things I've dealt with. Maybe he doesn't get some of those genes, or maybe he grows up depressed too. Maybe he overcomes some things in his teen years, or maybe he makes mistakes like me, like trying to take his life. Maybe he gets through college years with the perfect average, making friends and being socially responsible. And maybe I could have done better. Maybe he has a marriage and realizes that just because you made results doesn't mean that you're being necessarily the best partner you could have been. And maybe he can be that. I could have made a human being that has every fault that I have. But if I just, now that I can't be selfish anymore, if I can just fix a few of them, or maybe not fix, but show him how to handle it, and see that for me it was crippling, and for him it's a side note in his life. For me, maybe I pretty much was depression with the side of Steven, and maybe for him, when it hits and he sees an example of how it could be, he is Rowan Jackson, and sometimes he's sad. You see what I mean? Maybe I get defined as being this guy that has borderline tendencies, and he gets to say, no, I've just got this thing that sometimes happens. It's no biggie. That I say my marriage is failing and I need to protect my children, and he sees the marriage failing and he's got it down pat, and he protects them in ways that I couldn't protect him. I'm gonna turn off now because I'll just keep going. The whole point of the live stream was not to give myself a filter. The other videos are gonna not be live streams. They're gonna be scripted. I get to edit. I get to cut it down and condense it. I get to make it into something that everyone gets to see. Everyone gets to hear a message. I get to pass on a message as concise as possible so that maybe it helps other people. So maybe they don't have to sit through an hour's worth of rambling. So maybe that in the 3 or 4 videos I make, in the shorter times that they're in, that there is a point to get across that's easy to hear and grasp. But today was more or less to force myself into admitting that I have to do it. I have to. For the same reason that I said any of the stories I've said in any of my other videos. Life is Strange, The Last of Us, telling personal stuff in live streams. Because if it helps one person, if it helps one other person, see, this is where I also have to realize that the second I put myself out there on the internet, my life didn't get to be my own anymore. I can be an example for others, even if it's a small channel. So if just one person sees that there's a struggle and it's real, if one person gets to see that I'm trying and it changes the way they go about it for the better, just one person sees that, then all of the derogatory things that come my way, all of the awful things that I'm going to hear later, the private messages that get put in spam that I won't want to read, the things that have already been in this chat as it started up that I had to delete very fast. Maybe if it just helps somebody, then maybe my pain was worth it for them, because I saved somebody from having to go through the same. They didn't have to figure it out on their own. That was the painful route. They got to hear from me to say, maybe you should try something new. Yeah, I'm no guru on all this, but at least I can say I'm trying something different. And at least I can say I'm showing my son that there can be a difference. Maybe the thing he gets right, after all of this, is that he saw his dad try to do something different that is not seen when couples end up breaking up, marriages dissolved, and children get caught in the crossfire. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's that he saw I tried something different and it was flawed, and when he did it, he got it the right way, the way that maybe I don't see, the ways that still aren't the normal, but maybe I missed something here. In all of my thinking of trying to help him, maybe I missed something. And maybe when he comes across it, he won't miss it. He'll be better than me. He'll be stronger than me. He'll do what needs to be done more efficiently, and he'll do it for the right reasons. Do it with the right means and the right intentions. Do it without having to hide or be ashamed of anything he's done. And then when he looks at me and wants approval, he won't realize that I'm looking at him and I want his approval. That I was a good enough dad.